Hi guys, and welcome to our first season finale, episode 17 of the In the Hub podcast. In the Hub began back in August of 2020. Since then, we've had some fantastic guests and some incredibly insightful discussions into the vibrant world of broadcasting and broadcast tech. In this episode, we flip the format. Phillip Neighbour, Chief Operating Officer at PlayBox Technology UK, will be interviewing me with questions submitted by people in our industry. I really hope that you enjoy this episode, and I wish you all a very happy holiday season. Don't worry, we won't be gone for long. Stay tuned for some exciting updates about Season 2, which will launch bigger and better than ever in 2021.
Okay, so hi Neil.
Good morning, Philip.
Today we're going to do a podcast with a slight twist. Over the last few weeks, we've had a number of questions about you, Neil. And so for our wonderful listeners, I will ask some of the following questions that have come in. So Neil, how did you first get started within our wonderful broadcast industry?
Just want to say first, thank you, Philip, obviously, for having me. And it's quite an experience being on the other side of the table at the moment.
Well, thank you for letting me hijack your podcast.
And thank you to all the people who've asked questions about me as well, and been curious about me. So I think officially I got started within broadcasting and broadcast technology more specifically back in October of 2019, I think it will have been. And I was in my final year at university at that point. And I started working part-time with PlayBox Technology on the digital marketing kind of side of things. And that really was my first ever experience with the broadcasting industry. I've always considered myself to be a relatively technical person. I always used to be able to help friends with fixes on their PCs and always enjoyed working with software and gaming and stuff like that. I think it's only as I entered this industry that I realised I wasn't technical enough at all.
It's a great challenge to keep up to date with everything.
Yeah. So, since then I've put in a lot of time and effort into learning what makes our industry tick and, all of the technical aspects behind and the technology we're working with. And just a lot of the terminology behind it as well. It's quite a task to, learn OTT, VOD, all that kind of stuff, the stuff that just comes off the tongue now, rolls off the tongue instinctively. So, thinking back, I've learned a lot since starting with PlayBox and especially since becoming full-time, which I started doing this year after I finished my university course, which was a marketing degree in Birmingham in the UK. But I've been really enjoying it so far, and it's been a major experience for me.
So I know when I talk to people about our industry who aren't involved, they have some very funny ideas. So when you first started, what were your views? What were your perspectives on this industry? Yeah,
I can certainly say there were definitely some misconceptions that have been corrected now, partly thanks to you, Phil. It's always kind of been an industry that I've almost, I don't want to say taken for granted, but taken for granted in a way. So, the regular stuff, I'd log on to Netflix or an OTT platform and really not pay much mind to how the content actually comes to be there. It's the same with linear television. I'd watch the Graham Norton show on a Friday night and I'd have no idea how it's actually on my TV. I'd just consume the content, enjoy it. I always originally knew about the kind of surface level stuff. So, master control rooms, obviously the part that satellites play, the operators, and just the stuff that's pretty common knowledge. But, since actually getting headfirst into this industry, you find out just how much work these people put in, just how much technology is behind it all. Just the work ethic behind it all, really. So I always consider myself as having a little bit more experience in streaming. That's an industry I've always been quite interested in. Goes hand in hand with my kind of interest in gaming and stuff like that. Obviously, that in part is an industry that's boomed exponentially over the last few years. The rise we've seen with esports and platforms like Twitch and stuff like that. So I always kind of viewed those industries as two separate ecosystems. But it's only now that I realise just how kind of intertwined these industries are. And just how much these streaming giants and the streaming software and platforms tie into the traditional stuff that we know and love. So I've always kind of viewed it as an industry that has high barriers to entry, in part because of the technical knowledge that's required and stuff like that. But when you do start getting stuck in, and you talk to people, and you do all this research, and learn all this technical stuff, you know, you really find out that it's just not that difficult to get started in. And now, especially, it's really developed into an exciting industry that I feel just really proud in myself of being a part of, and almost like I've got kind of bragging rights to say I know what's going on here now, and we play a pretty incremental part in it.
Okay. So, Neil, I can think of lots of good reasons why you joined PlayBox. The fact that we're
Yes.
one of the market leaders in playouts and we've been around for almost 20 years. But
Yep.
why did you choose PlayBox? Of all the companies in our industry, why PlayBox?
Yes, it's an interesting one. I think that fundamentally it's exciting. That's the one word that always kind of comes to mind. With Playbox, you're really in the thick of it. There's a lot of innovation and development going on a day-to-day basis, and more in terms of the work I do. There's a lot of responsibility that comes with my role, and it's quite a flexible structure as a company. So there's no kind of bureaucracy that you have to pass through. There's no 10 levels before you can get to a CEO or anything like that. So I think, put simply, put concisely, things get done quickly in Playbox. And that's something which I really enjoy, and something that you don't often get the luxury of experiencing in a company.
Yeah, I mean, we've gained that experience. I mean, our playout market and OTT market is very fast moving. And we've learned at our cost that you have to be very proactive and you have to move very quickly with customers, otherwise you just lose the business. And I know it puts a lot of stress on the team, but if we want to stay as a market leader, we have to keep up with that.
Yes. So of course there's the heritage of the channel in a box as well, and it's awesome to be part of a company that still continues to define an industry, and did so way back with the conception of the channel in a box. And also just awesome to be watching, say a world title boxing match on a Saturday night, and knowing that is being delivered with Playbox. Again, you get the bragging rights as well. So you get to watch these live events and say, we're an incremental part of this.
So another question I have for you is, why digital marketing? I know you have a massive bent on digital marketing, and I can see, over the period of time that you've been with us, that our online presence, social media presence has massively increased. But what would you say to people in our industry about digital marketing?
I think in terms of digital marketing, it's not just our industry. I'd say it's every industry out there. I think that digital marketing is something that you can't afford not to pay attention to nowadays, and especially now more than ever with COVID-19 and the pandemic that shook the world in 2020. It's only accelerated some aspects of digital marketing, I'd say. Of course, at face value, it's kind of having that website and the online presence that you can't get away with not having nowadays. So from the outside in, I always viewed this industry as kind of thriving off of, not purely thriving off of personal relationships and word of mouth. It's stuff like trade shows and events. I'm sure you can agree there, Phil. Something that is built fundamentally off those relationships and the coffee shop talks. The talks over beers and stuff like that.
Yeah, so it's the whole networking side. It's how you
Yes.
engage with people, and within this industry, your customers become your friends. And I've always noticed that it's very incestuous. Hardly anybody new comes into our industry. They go from one company to another, and that's why it's so great to have somebody like you, who's fresh, has different ideas.
Yes, actually, yeah, I can see that. This year, in a way, I think has forced us to almost propel ourselves past that. Not even out of desire, but just a need to change. Because of obviously with trade shows and events being postponed and cancelled, it's something that we do have to alter.
Yeah, I think the whole way that we engage with our customers, I see that more and more people are moving online. Is there a future in trade shows? It's very debatable. In some form, yes, and because we all like to socialize and we like to see what the latest products are. But now, more and more, I can see how easy for both ourselves and for our customers, it is to do these things online.
Yeah, 100%. And I know we both attended BAM Live a little bit earlier in December. And that, to me, was a fantastic event. I really enjoyed that. So I know that there is a future for these virtual events. But I guess only time will tell whether physical events can continue. So I think, yeah, to me, it almost seems quite archaic to just rely on these in-person relationships and word of mouth. But I know just how important they are. I think that history has proven that this works exceptionally well for our industry.
What has been the most important thing you've learned so far about our industry?
It's a really tough one because I've learned a lot of fantastic stuff. Some of the people that I've been introduced to through you, Phil, and the other people at PlayBox, the team, and some of the relationships that I've kind of already formed in this industry. It's funny because I'm practically in awe speaking to some of these people, because of what they've achieved and what they've done in their careers. I think fundamentally it's really taught me that you really can't sit still. And from some of the work that goes into some of our clients carrying out these massive live events, even down to their scheduling and preparation for their linear TV channels, and of course, like the behind the scenes innovation and the developments that go on in companies like us that are involved in broadcast tech. There's no time to nap, essentially, is there? Got to keep on pushing forwards, and you've got to keep an eye on just trends as well. You've really got to keep your peripheral vision on trends and keeping up to date with all of that.
But there are so many different trends. How do you choose which ones you focus on?
Exactly. It's difficult for one person to read down, the homepage of a popular broadcasting news network and taking in all that information there, because there's so many different spheres of information, so many different sub-industries touched on, that I think, like you say, it's difficult for one person to take in all of that information and actually effectively action it. So I think it's kind of like a group effort kind of thing, isn't it? So you need, obviously, we've got R&D teams based in Reading, and we've got development centres and stuff like that. So they're kind of these teams that you want to put there and focus on this kind of stuff and see what's happening. Put simply, you've got to keep on pushing forwards, obviously, and that's something that's been echoed in much of the podcasts that I've been talking to some great people on. You've got to keep an eye on these trends, and you've just got to make the most of the resources and the potential that you have in this day and age as well. Because it's now or never, really, isn't it?
It is. Can you tell us anything about the up-and-coming podcasts for 2021?
We'll be finishing season 1 pretty soon, up in December. So we're not currently sure whether this will be our last episode of season 1. But again, we're going to have some really fantastic people lined up. We've got a lot of recordings scheduled in and booked in. So we'll be touching on a lot more topics than we covered in season 1. I know we've had a fantastic reception to the episodes that are already up there. And again, I just want to extend a thanks to everyone who's expressed interest in the podcast, who's come on the podcast, and all the people who were booked in as well. We're not stopping anytime soon. We're going to roll with it. And it's just been an incredible experience, to be honest. It's crazy to think that, in before August of this year, everyone obviously reeling with the pandemic and the effects of that. It kind of just started as an idea and, a supplementary kind of digital campaign strategy. And it's something that we've really took to love, and something that's really become a part of the kind of PlayBox ethos and the vision behind it as well.
No, as per normal, I've saved the most difficult question until last.
Oh, I know what's coming.
So, Neil, what do you see as the future of our industry as a whole?
I just want to preface it with saying that, obviously I've heard so many fantastic answers to this question through me asking some industry legends and some fresh up and comers this exact question through our podcast and the episodes that we've done so far. Me obviously being fresh to the industry and having this perspective, I would have initially thought that video on demand and subscription video on demand and VOD and OTT and the rise of Disney Plus and Discovery and all these new platforms, at first that would have been everything that I'm focusing on, but we've seen as a company especially that the need and the benefits of linear TV channels and this linear programming still ring true to this day, and live events, of course, as well. So I think it's almost a bit of a cop out, but I think my word for the future of the industry is just innovation. And if I could add more, it would just be relentless innovation. And I think that's an ethos that many companies within our industry can echo as well. I think it's the single most important concept for an industry like ours. We've been doing it exceptionally well so far, and you've only got to look at the history of PlayBox to see that. But you can almost tell, you can almost smell in the air, can't you? There's so much more to come. And again, echoing what I've said before, no time to nap, unfortunately. But
No.
it's
No, I agree. It's 100% engagement or nothing.
Yeah, exactly. You've got to put your whole heart into it, or there's almost no no point, really, isn't it? If you've got no passion for it, there's no point. So just fundamentally, it's exciting, and I simply can't wait to see what the future holds. And working with PlayBox, we're at the forefront of that. We're almost in the first line of battle there. I just can't wait. It's going to be really exciting, I think. So roll on 2021.
Okay, Neil, thank you very much for letting me reverse the podcast.
Of course.
I realise it's not as easy as you make it sound. If people want to get directly in touch with you, what's the best contact information?
Yes, so people can drop me a message on LinkedIn or drop me a connection request. So that'll be Neil Thacker on LinkedIn. It's not a very common name, so you shouldn't have too much issue in finding me there. But also my PlayBox email, which is neil.thacker, which is THACKER, at playboxtechnology.com. So you can drop me an email there at any time if you've got any questions, or if you're interested in anything about the podcast, if you want to find out more about it, if you want to appear on it, please do get in touch with me there, and we'll sort something out.
Okay, Neil Thacker, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much, Phil. It's been an interesting experience, and thank you for taking the time to interview me and ask me the questions as well. It's been brilliant.